Hey guys, it's Ben here. Welcome to episode number 11 of The Fix. So we're going to take a look at a photo called Standing on Top of the World, and it's one that I posted as photo of the week a little while ago, February 26th of 2017. And it's a pretty simple photo. There's not much to it. There's not much to the editing behind it, but I'll show you kind of what I do with a photo like this. So it's quite dark. The sun had set and there's still just a little bit of color in the sky. Um, and you can see me standing way up there on the ridge. So that's kind of the focus of the picture. And so I'll show you how you kind of bring that out and keep that dark, kind of gloomy, broody look to the photo, um, and still have a focus to it. So that's what we're going to take a look at. And just the quick, behind the scenes story of what was happening in this photo. So some friends of mine and I headed up for a little bit of an adventure in the mountains, I guess. And this was just before I was heading down to New Zealand, where I'm living at the moment, recording this video. And I'm down here for a year. And this is the summer just before I left home. And this was kind of our last adventure into the mountains. And we had these big plans to hike up to the top of this mountain, stay here overnight. So we stayed in tents just below the ridge to the right, and we set up our tents down there in this little spot of grass. And we were planning to head up back to the ridge and down this side, and just below us here is a place called Bridge of the Mastodons, and it's kind of this elusive rock arch that there's a few pictures of, but not too many people know where it is. And it's quite cool. It's tough to get to, but it's it's a really cool spot, and you can get cool pictures of it and that sort of thing. So that was the plan. We were going to head down there, and it was a full moon or a super moon or something. So we thought it'd be a really cool light night to do this. So that was the plan. It turns out that it was super windy. We were up on this ridge, and we were almost laying down against the ground to stop all of our stuff from blowing around and that sort of thing. And it turns out that the wind picked up even more throughout the night, and eventually the night concluded when one of the tents from our group ended up blowing away down the mountain. And so we collected up all of the stuff after panicking for a little bit, and that's when we packed up our stuff and headed down and had to call it a night. So it was a bit of a bust, but we got a few pictures out of it, and it ended up being quite a fun adventure. So anyways, this is the photo. Let's get into it over here in Lightroom. So what I've got is the photo here. That's full screen, so you can see a little bit better. We'll make Lightroom full screen as well, and then this is the one that we're going to edit. So just by hitting D, I head over to the Develop module. You can see all the settings here from what I've done before, and I just hit Reset, and we're going to start from scratch. And I'm kind of just winging it here, so I'll show you what I do. It might not be exactly what I ended up with in the first one, but I'll give you a few ideas, and hopefully we get close. So first thing to do is crop. You saw on the other one that I had quite a wide crop, and I really like that look for this one, because I think that's where everything is. All the mountains left to right, big wide area. So that's what we're going to be looking at doing here. And then we're going to bring this sky down, because there's not that much up here that's that interesting. So we'll keep some of those cool clouds and that sort of thing. And then you can see this is the kind of the rule of thirds, or the golden ratio crop, and we're ending up with me standing up there on that, silhouetted on the peak, pretty close to that. So that's kind of where that attention is going to be, where your eye is going to be drawn when you look at the picture. So something like that looks pretty cool. And then let's just double check and make sure that the horizon in the back is straight. So I just grab this little tool here, the little ruler, draw a line across here. So I think it's that edge of jagged mountains that I'm looking at as being straight. So starting there, drawing across, I think something like that I'd be happy if that was the horizon line. And that looks pretty cool. So nice and straight, cropped low and wide, and then we'll start from here. And so zooming in, you can see how you know, that night, here we go, we'll try that again. That nice bright sky silhouette, someone standing up there perfectly. So that's going to be what we're going to try to accentuate. And let's just, I still want a really, really cold look, so I might come back to the white balance after. But for now, I'm just going to warm it up just a little bit to bring kind of that sky color in. And then once we crank up the saturation and the vibrance down here, I think it'll bring lots of those blues back. So something like that. Tint, I'm not going to play around with that for now. And that's something we can come back to later. Not too sure about exposure yet. I do like the nice dark look, but we'll brighten it up a little bit. That never hurts. Contrast, I'm going to open up those shadows and that sort of thing a little bit so that we can see some more details. But then the blacks, I'm going to bring those down just a little bit. Let's see. So bring those blacks down just to give it that, you know, down in the valley bottom and that sort of thing, that inky black look. And we are cutting off, you know, all of these details here are being cut off and clipped in the shadows, but I'm fine with that. And then highlights, let's see. So right now, I'm going to bring the highlights down, something like that, just to give that sky some detail and that sort of thing. Not too much, because you still want that bright spot right behind here to illuminate that figure up there. Lift the shadows a little bit, just so you can see some of the details in the rocks and that sort of thing. And then let's see where these whites get us. So that's a little bit too much, but just a little bit of brightening there to brighten things up. So that's a pretty good base, I think. Just a tiny bit of clarity to get some contrasts in the midtones, and I think that's looking pretty good for that, you know, basic edit. Tone curve, there's not that much that I want to do with that I haven't done already. These specific colors, I wouldn't mind bringing out a little bit more of that orange of the sun setting. So we'll crank up the saturation of that a little bit, and same with the yellow. A little bit there, and blues. Blue is kind of the color here that I'm really looking for to give it that cold look. So we'll bring up a little bit of that and press Y to see where we're heading. So it looks pretty good so far. A lot of this, we're going to do some local adjustments in this area of the rock, and we'll do that later on just to brighten it up and make this kind of that leading line into the photo. But as for now, I'm pretty happy with that. We're not going to do any split toning, but we will do a bit of sharpening. So let's zoom in here, and this is going to be what we want to look at. Just making sure that we get those edges nice and crisp. Radius, I'm actually going to bring that radius up and then add in a whole bunch of detail. And if you're going to print this or something like that, I'd spend a little bit more time figuring out exactly the spots for the sharpening, but we'll just kind of get through it. It's just being posted online anyway, so not super critical. And then mask out that sky, but keep those edges and everything in the rock nice and crisp. And then there's not much noise in there anyways, but I like to just add a bit to clean that up anyways. So I think we're actually looking pretty good so far. Just want to go back and play around with brightness and that sort of thing really quick. So I'm actually going to bring those highlights up a little bit to make that figure pop a bit more. Shadows is pretty good. We'll actually bring those up a bit and then bring the blacks down. Cool. Just add some more detail in there. All right. Now, let's see what the profile corrections does. It's actually like that. It flattens it out a little bit. And then we'll bring some of that darkened corner look back in with some post-crop vignetting. Easy peasy. And once again, hit Y to see how far we've come. So from this to begin with to this, which actually doesn't look that much different, but just some playing around with the colors a little bit and that sort of thing. And now what we're going to do is darken up the bottom, just so that you have this kind of dark line across the bottom. I like the look of that, and I've saved a little preset here called Darken Bottom. And all it is just dragging that exposure down a little bit. So let's bring one in here that just kind of fades in a little bit. That looks pretty good, and it's quite subtle. And then let's try one kind of from this angle. Just fade that in a little bit more. Cool, so that's cool. And then let's add another one here called Extra Pop, which is another saved preset. And I can tweak this a little bit if need be. Let's warm that up just a bit. So something like that. And that's just, making this section of rock stand out a little bit more by warming it up a bit. And then let's actually just grab the brush and brush a little bit further past this, down around there, as well as down here. Alright, so I'm just kind of winging it here and making changes as I think they need to be made, so something like that. I've got a bunch of red color coming through here, and I'm gonna see, might not be able to get rid of it, but it seems like it's just some kind of imperfection in the lens or something like that that's showing through. Just out of curiosity, let's see if color noise would get rid of that by cranking that up. Doesn't seem to, so instead, what I'll do is I'll grab my brush. I'm going to zero this out, and we don't need any color in there anyways, so let's see if we can just get rid of it. No, and that doesn't look good at all. Oh. So it's just taking a little bit to load it. So that's not really helping at all. So we might have to live with it. The other thing we could do is just darken, or take a little bit of saturation out of it and just kind of cool it down to get rid of that red and bring in a little bit more blue. Bring down the exposure to bring it, a little bit blacker. Oh, that's too much there. And that kind of gets rid of it. So just darkening it up. Darkening it up, taking some color out of it, and cooling it down a bit. And that seems to do the trick, at least for our purposes. Cool, so we're making progress. Let's do one more little subtle amount of darkening the bottom here, just to kind of fade it in a bit more. Cool, so I think that looks quite good. I'm quite happy with that. So I was really just focusing on kind of this triangle of rock here to lead the eye into the picture. And you see this figure standing up there all alone. Looks like they're on top of the world. You see the color in the sky as the sun has dropped behind in the mountains in the distance. We're keeping that cool, kind of moody look to the whole picture. Lots, quite a bit of contrast, dark edges and corners, and super dark down in the valley. So it's kind of like this cold, solitary moment. And I think that's the objective of the picture. And it's always good to have that idea that you want to capture in the picture and have that kind of solid in your mind throughout it, so that you don't get off track or that kind of thing. So it just keeps you focused on on the look that you want to pull out of the picture. So that's That's what I was really trying to do here. So if you hit Y, you can see that there's actually, not a huge difference from the original one, or from the non-edited picture, because it was quite a clean shot right out of the camera. But this is what we've ended up with. So just brightening up those rocks, darkening the edge on the bottom, warming this up a little bit so that it stands out from kind of everything around it, and it gives your eye something nice and comfortable to focus on and pull it kind of gently into the picture. So yeah, that's the editing for that one. And just out of curiosity, we'll see what we this is the one that I edited before, and this is the one here. So this is the one on the website, and this is what I've ended up with here. So a little bit different. I didn't quite warm up the original one quite as much as this one, but this just gives you an idea of, every time you edit a picture, it's a little bit different, and your mind kind of goes a different direction every time. So yeah, hopefully you learned something with that one today. And I'll see you on the next episode. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to shoot me an email. And if there's any other pictures that you ever see that I post that you'd be interested in knowing how I did the editing behind it, just send me an email or leave a comment on the website. Let me know that you'd be interested in seeing how the editing went down on that one, and I'll happily feature it in another episode of The Fix. So thanks for joining me today on episode 11, and I'll see you next time.